महोदय, आंकड़े बोलते हैं और झूठ तो नहीं बोलते। आप तय करें कि कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स की कमी से इस देश को फायदा हुआ कि नुकसान हुआ। महोदय, फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट के बारे में प्रियंका जी ने कहा, कैपिटल मार्केट के बारे में, तो ये एक तथ्य है, उनको मालूम होगा कि कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट में लोग आते हैं और पैसा लगाते हैं और निकालते हैं। उन्होंने केवल पैसे निकालने की बात की, लेकिन इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात नहीं की। मैं समझता हूं कि ये तथ्यात्मक रूप से गलती है। महोदय, वाइजाग स्टील प्लांट और डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट के बारे में लोगों ने बात कही। मैं केवल एक हिंदुस्तान जिंक का उदाहरण देना चाहूँगा। 2002 में 770 करोड़ में बेचा गया और आज उसका 30% स्टेक, केवल 30% स्टेक इज़ 27,000 करोड़, और मांग रहे हैं लोग, सरकार दे नहीं रही है। और 2002 में 70 करोड़ के शुद्ध लाभ के जगह आज 8,000 करोड़ रुपए का उस कंपनी को फायदा हो रहा है, जिसमें कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स भी सरकार को मिल रहा है। महोदय, डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट इज़ नॉट ए बैड, अब तक का एक्सपीरियंस, बैड डिसीजन जो अब तक का है। एयर इंडिया के मामले में 60,000 करोड़ का घाटा हुआ, कौन जिम्मेवार है इसके लिए, किसके ऊपर कार्रवाई है? विजय मल्ल्या ने तो 5,000 करोड़ का घाटा किया, हम उसको भला बुरा कहते हैं। महोदय, और अंत में महोदय, मैं 1 मिनट में अपनी बात खत्म करूंगा कि हमारे टीएमसी के साथी ने हमारे जननायक प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी पर व्यक्तिगत और घटिया आक्षेप लगाए। महोदय, ये दुख का विषय है। मैं समझता हूँ उनका जीवन एक खुली किताब है, उनके आर्थिक मामले सबको मालूम है, उनकी बैलेंस शीट सबके सामने है, उनके निजी एसेट, निजी व्यवहार, उनके परिवार का आचरण सबको मालूम है। कम से कम एक व्यक्ति को तो उसकी ईमानदारी की सज़ा न दें। मैं इस सदन के माध्यम से उनसे आग्रह करूँगा। और महोदय, एक कहावत है, द मैन इज़ नॉट मेड फॉर डिफीट, और यह राष्ट्र भी ऐसा है। हम एक अर्थव्यवस्था के रूप में अत्यधिक दबाव में थे, लेकिन कभी हमने युद्ध का मैदान नहीं छोड़ा, और मुझे यकीन है सभी बाधाओं के बावजूद हम सभी के लिए विकास जारी रखेंगे। धन्यवाद महोदय।
धन्यवाद महेश जी। अब माननीय मंत्री जी का जवाब।
Thank you very much, sir. I thank all the 26 honorable members who participated in this debate and have actually gone into great details of discussing most aspects of the budget, some aspects of the finance bill, and some aspects of the appropriation bill. I focus on my reply shall focus on observations made on the finance bill and observations also made on the appropriation, and less on the budget, because on the budget I think we've had one round already. So I shall not spend too much time responding to observations made on the budget. So this finance bill has been presented at a time when the revival from the pandemic days is still an ongoing job, and we are focusing on a sustained growth, recovery with a predictable taxation regime, and ensuring that the newer challenges which are before us, whether at the time of the budget presentation I hadn't taken on board the Omicron, and now we are also facing the situation of a full-blown war in Ukraine, which is not some war in some corner of the world, but it is seemed to be having impact on all countries like the way the pandemic had. But this impact is disruption to very many supplies. The value chains are all broken. Newer markets are emerging. At the same time, old markets are all caught up in a situation where nothing is normal. So you're actually in a situation
इनमें से एक कोई इनकी पत्नी,
like the way during the pandemic we came up with a budget and then came the second wave. This time we came up with a budget so that continuity in recovery will be aimed at, and then came Omicron. Now we also have a war whose impact is being felt by all of us. However, if we just go back to the realities which hold good for the budget of last year and the budget of this year, and therefore reflection in the finance bill, is that we have not taken taxation as a route for mobilizing resources. I said this in the Lok Sabha. I was pleasantly surprised to hear very many members here also referring to my response there. But that response is a well thought out response, a response which is a true response, fact-based response, in that in the last year, we did not fall back on any increase in tax in the name of COVID tax or in the name of any other element of tax to have the resource mobilized for the sake of meeting the challenges of recovery. So did we in this budget as well. So I want to highlight that fact, that the clear understanding and direction by the Honorable Prime Minister was the budget shall not draw on resources by taxing people at this time when recovery is the most important element, and that we should find resources and fully continue with the predictable recovery that we were aiming at, and sustained recovery for growth was the point which was underlined. And in that context, therefore, I repeat what I said in the Lok Sabha, that the OECD report has clearly shown that about 32 countries had increased various tax rates during the pandemic. They could have raised the personal income or corporate income or environment-related taxations or health-related taxes or excise duties, but they were large economies, developed economies, not so developed economies, all of whom resorted to increasing in tax. We did not, in spite of all the speculation which was going on in the media as well. So no tax was increased for our recovery process to be funded or aimed. So in spite of all the uncertainty, and in spite of all the self-doubting eminent persons who have been commenting saying, no, Indian economy has a problem, nobody is realizing, those in the government don't know how to handle the economy, and so on, I'd like to place before you figures which actually depend on the judgment of people who deal with money, big money, and who are dealing with big money across the board anywhere in the world, and which is reflected in the FDIs. The FDI inflow into India, sir, in FY21 was $81.72 billion, US dollars. In FY20, it was $74.39 billion. India has continued to remain in the top 5 FDI recipient countries, and this is a UNCTAD UNCTAD report. I'd like to say that in the 7 years and 9 months of Prime Minister Modi's government till December 2021, the FDI inflows into India has been $500.5 billion, and that is about 65% higher.
है। अब आपको विद्या, आपको इनके साथ फ्लर्ट करना है, कुछ भी करना है, आपको उन तीनों के रिएक्शंस देख के पता करना है कौन असली वाइफ है।
आप करते क्या है?
मैं सिक्योरिटी कंसल्टेंट हूँ मैम।
माइक में बोलिए सर। विद्या बालन को देखकर टेक्नोलॉजी भूल गए। माइक में बोलेंगे आपको नहीं पता चलेगा।
मैं सिक्योरिटी कंसल्टेंट हूँ और लेडीज को सिक्योरिटी प्रोवाइड करता हूँ।
लेडीज को? आपको किस तरह की लड़कियां पसंद है? मैंने पहचान लिया सर, पता चल गया। वो वाली, पहली वाली।
वो जो लास्ट में है, आप ही इनकी वाइफ है?
नहीं नहीं, नो
मैं तो मना करूंगा नहीं।
कहते मैं तो मना करूंगा नहीं। ये
सिर्फ तेरा रहूंगा, तुझसे है वादा ये मेरा, तू मांग ले मुस्कुरा के मेरा प्यार। सिर्फ तेरा रहूंगा, तुझसे है वादा ये मेरा।
How'd you do that? Magic trick.
Yo, you gotta fix that.
What did you? How'd you do that? Magic trick.
Yo, you gotta fix that.
What did you?
तोहर बाल झाड़ दी। अच्छा आवा, कहाँ जाते हो बाल झड़वाई के? स्कूले जाते है। अच्छा, खाना खाया कि ना? अभी ना खाए है? लेट हो तो का तू है? लाओ तो हम बाल झाड़ दी फटाफट। कवन हीरो मतीन झाड़ी तोहर बाल? अजय देवगन मतीन बाल झाड़ी? अजय देवगन के फैन है का तुम? अच्छा ये बतावा, तोहर 20 के पहाड़ा आए कि ना? आए गए? पूछी? चलो बताओ, 20 के 20 दूना 20 तिहाई 20 चौक 20 पंचे 20 छक्का 20 सत्ते 20 अट्ठे 20 नवैया 20 दामे। शाबाश शाबाश शिवान। ला शीशम देख ला। तोहर बाल अजय देवगन मतीन होई ना? बताया हमें है। तोहर बाल झाड़ दी। अच्छा आवा, कहाँ जा?
मैं जा रहा हूँ दूर, तुम आवाज दोगी क्या?
Hey! Avisa. Sube, suavecito. Suave. Suave. Los pies. Hasta arriba. Ojo aquí. Hasta arriba. Ven, suave.
तुझसे नाराज नहीं जिंदगी, हैरान हूँ मैं, हो हैरान हूँ मैं। तुझसे नाराज नहीं मैं कसी के सैया, मारे लो कचा बहिया में कसी के सैया, मारे लो कचा ए राजा 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 कोरी जमे समाजा में कसी के सैया, मारे लो कचा बहिया में कसी के सैया, मारे लो कचा ए राजा 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 कोरी जमे समाजा। न रस्मों रिवाजों को तुम भूल जाना, जो ली है कसम तो इसे तुम निभाना। न रस्मों रिवाजों को तुम भूल जाना, जो ली है
three different silos because it's a very important aspect of the debate, and I think all of us, every member would want to know about it, and I would rather put this up front so that people know the arguments which every now and then, even during the question hour or otherwise, all of us give as response. It may sound, many people, without the narration here, it looks as if we are just saying, no, no, we have not. But actually, I'll put before this august house the facts which govern. So, as per Article 271 of the Indian Constitution, all taxes and duties, except surcharges and cesses levied for, after all, they are levied for specific purposes, shall be distributed to the Union and between the Union and the states. That is well laid out. The percentage of share for the states in the net proceeds is recommended by the Finance Commission, and then it is accepted by the Government of India from time to time. So, and also further, as per Article 279 of the Indian Constitution, the net proceeds of shareable central taxes shall be certified by the Controller and Auditor General. So, it's not as if I can determine something and say this is the net proceeds. It is certified by the CAG for any particular year. Accordingly, the CAG of India certifies the total shareable pool of taxes every year. He certifies it, so it's not a random subjective number. And then the Government of India devolves that amount, that certified amount, to the states. So this is well established, and there is no way any individual or any government can tinker with that process. That is established. So for instance, now I go to my first silo for my response to Amar Patnaik ji. For instance, the share of the states in devolution in central taxes was projected as under for this budget. In the BE 21-22, meaning for the year which is ending in another 1 or 2 days, when it was presented in the budget, the BE said 6.66 lakh crores is the share of states in devolution. That's a BE. RE 2021-22 for this year, RE, which is the year which is in running, in the next 2 days it's going to get concluded. It is 7.45 lakh crores. Honorable members will be pleased to know. I'm glad Amar Patnaik ji is here. So all the more reason why I have to respond. Honorable members will be pleased to know that what I have devolved this year in the place of 7.45 lakh crores, which is my RE. My BE was 6.66 lakh crores. What I have actually devolved is 8.35 lakh crores as on date. So, not just the BE, not just the RE which is higher than the BE, but actually much more than that, and this is a 1.69 lakh crores more than the BE. So, 90,000 crores over the RE. Over the BE, 1.69 lakh crores are given more. Over the RE, which itself is an elevated RE, 90,000 crores has been given in excess of what I put in the RE figures. How did this come about? So before I go to that, one-time payment which I have done this year, as a result of which this hike was possible, I just want to go into the detail of a table. The net proceeds which gets authorized by the Controller and Auditor General, if I can take the figures for a moment so that the honorable members will be informed. The net proceeds is arrived at from the gross tax revenue, which includes the cesses and surcharges and everything else, the gross tax revenue, then remove from it the cesses and surcharge, then remove from it the cost of collection, and then you arrive at the net proceeds. I'm sure Amar Patnaik ji is here, he can say if I'm going on the right track. So you arrive at the net proceeds. And that net proceeds is what is authorized by the CAG, and based on which, given the formula by the Finance Commission, the amount gets distributed to the states. I'll just read the numbers, sir. So that between 2019-20, 2021 and 21-22, we know the flow of how things are. The state's share, I'll directly come to that and go back to giving backward linkage. The fear that states are getting lesser, I just want to address that straight away. State share, sir, in 2019-20, I'm talking of the actual share which went to the states, was 6,83,353 crores. 1920 actual. 2021 actual. 6,15,841. 21-22 budget estimate 6,65,563 over the 1920 figure, 2021 figure. 2021-22 is 6,65,563. 21-22, the same year, for which the BE was 6,65,563, the revised estimate shows you 7,20,557, which is the revised estimate for this year, which has 2 more days to go. So, the RE actually is shown as 835 only because I have a long overdue amount which has been lying from 2014-15, which was constantly being discussed with the CAG, which had to be paid to the states, and states had to give some amount to us. All this reconciliation has been going on from 2014-15. I take that up now, so that we know why the actual, not just because of the net payable due, net proceeds are higher on their own, but there's also this one-time payment which I have made this year. One-time payment, I say, because unpaid dues to the states from their share of central taxes from, would you believe it, from 1996-97, 1996-97 till 2014-15 have been continuously being under negotiation with the CAG. I picked up that also. We have been talking with the CAG, discussions were held. So the unpaid dues which the states need to get and the dues which the states had to give to the center were all worked out clearly, reconciled. Net, 43,000 crores had to be given to, devolved to the states. So there was some amount which the states owed to the center, some amount which the center owed to the states, all this piling up from 1996-97 till 2014-15. Even that was taken up, negotiated, discussed with the CAG, and the CAG, after reconciling these two dues from here, both have been reconciled. 43,000 crores we have cleared as of 28th February 2022. This year, it was Modi government which has cleared this due. Since 1996-97 till 2014-15, the CAG.
Please.
Please. Please, please.
Since then, the negotiations happened or not, at least we picked it up and we have settled this. So today, when I say that the revised estimate, because of better handling of all the cesses and surcharges being given to the states, as well as this 43,000, just 143,000 also getting added, goes up to 8.35 lakh crores. 8 lakh 35,000 crores. I'm right. So 8 lakh 35,000 crores as RE, which is 1.69 lakh crores more than the BE itself, and 90,000 crore over the RE, which is an enhanced amount. So in this, now I've explained that one-time payment which has been pending from 96-97 till 2014-15, that lock, stock and barrel has been cleared now, net approved by the CAG. So that leaves me with having to explain what happens to the cesses and the surcharges. For example, sir, this I go to the third silo. For example, 2013-14 to 2022-23, I give the cumulative amounts, the actual utilization of the health and education cess, which is a question which many honorable members have been asking. Oh, you've been collecting health cess, you've been collecting education cess, where is it going? You're collecting it and keeping it for yourself. States are suffering because to that extent their revenue is coming down. Not at all. The actual utilization of health and education cess, I think it was formerly called as primary and secondary higher education, primary, secondary and higher education cess. Now then it was changed to health and education cess. The cumulative total, sir, is expected to be 3.94 lakh crores as against the estimated collection.
Please, Mr. Vinay Viswamji, no, please. No. Please.
I'll give you everything that you want, Honorable Member Vinay Vishnu. But when you obstruct my flow,
Please.
I just can't,
Please do not obstruct. This is not right, Mr. Vinay Viswam. Sitting on the... Let her reply then. Let her reply. No, please. You have already spoken. Let her reply. No, this is not. This interruption is not correct. Please read the rules and procedure. It's very clearly mentioned that while sitting you cannot comment. Please.
Sir, sorry for repeating. From 2013-14 to 22-23, which is including the forthcoming year from 1st April onwards, the actual utilization of health and education cess is expected to be 3.94 lakh crores as against an estimated collection of 3.77 lakh crores. Collection is only 3.77 lakh crores estimate, whereas its actual utilization is going to be 3.94. This cess is primarily funding centrally sponsored schemes which happen in the states, wherein the funds are being transferred to state governments. So the health and education cess, much higher than what is being collected, is going to the states till 22-23. So on the health and education cess, जितना भी आशंका है, डाउट्स है किसी का मन में भी, प्लीज उसको दूर करें. कलेक्शन इज 3.77 लाख करोड़, मगर उसमें उठाने वाले खर्च 3.94 लाख करोड़, मतलब केंद्र सरकार उसमें जोड़ करके दे रही है. कलेक्शन को लेकर के बैठ नहीं रही है बिना खर्च भी उठा रहे हैं, उसमें हमारे पैसा भी जोड़ रहे हैं. इसलिए सेस का विषय में जब भी उठाते हैं प्रश्न, केंद्र सरकार उस सेस को कमा रही है, वो कमाई हमारे साथ शेयर नहीं कर रही है, बिल्कुल नहीं. सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम के द्वारा हर पैसा उधर जाता है, उससे ज्यादा भी जाता है। सो उसमें स्पष्टता रहे। सर, सेकंड, दूसरा सेस का उदाहरण, क्योंकि बार बार उसके ऊपर भी डाउट्स आते हैं लोगों के मन में। अरे कॉम्पनसेशन का सेस इतना कलेक्ट करते हैं, स्टेट्स को नहीं देते हैं, स्टेट्स को इतना बकाया है, स्टेट्स का बकाया हम तय नहीं करते, जीएसटी काउंसिल तय करता है कितना अभी देना, बाकी कब देना है। वो जुलाई 22 से जो सेस का बढ़ाया काल समय बढ़ाया 26 जून जनवरी तक, मार्च तक, वो पैसा भी कॉम्पनसेशन सेस से कलेक्शन उसका तय करने वाले, मतलब वो कॉम्पनसेशन सेस का तय करने वाले जीएसटी काउंसिल, फिर भी उसका भी आंकड़ा में दे देती हूं। जीएसटी कॉम्पनसेशन सेस टोटल यूटिलाइजेशन फ्रॉम 2017-18, जब से जीएसटी लागू है तब से टोटल यूटिलाइजेशन अप टू 22-23, मतलब अप्रैल 1 से जो साल आने वाले हैं उसको भी जोड़ करके मैं डिटेल्स दे रही हूं, इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू बी 6.01 लाख करोड़। मगर उसमें कलेक्शन कितना है जी? 5.63 लाख करोड़। किसी का बकाया नहीं है, मगर पैसा भी नहीं है देने के लिए। वो आएगा जुलाई से, आने के बाद वो भी हम देंगे, मगर पैसा नहीं दिया। पर्टिकुलरली बीजेपी शासन जहां नहीं है उनको नहीं दे रहे, हम बैठ रहे हैं उसके साथ। भैया कहां है पैसा, दिखाओ, जो मैं इधर रख के बैठ रही हूं। डेटा दे रही हूं जी, आप एक बार चाहिए तो किसी सीएजी से भी बात करिए। मालूम है ना, डिजिटल है जी, डिजिटल है, मैं रख नहीं सकती हूं, आप आरोपी नहीं लगा सकते हैं। डिजिटल है तो आरोपी नहीं लगाओ, आपको भी समझ में आएगा। डिजिटल है,
प्लीज
डिजिटल है, आरोप लगाने वाले भी सोच समझ करके आरोप लगाओ। तीसरी, थर्ड सर,
आपकी कोई बात रिकॉर्ड पे नहीं जा रही है जो
रनिंग कमेंट्री का भी जवाब दे पाएंगे आज। आज रनिंग कमेंट्री को भी देऊंगी जी जवाब। हाँ, ये नहीं है कि बोल करके चली जाना, रिकॉर्ड में आ गया जवाब नहीं मिले, नहीं, आज हर एक का जवाब मिलेगा।
प्लीज
रनिंग कमेंट्री को देना ही नहीं
बैठकर
पड़ता
आपस में। मिस्टर हुसैन, प्लीज हुसैन, प्लीज डू नॉट डू इट।
डेप्यूटी चेयरमैन सर,
प्लीज,
हाँ,
ये आप तय नहीं करेंगे। प्लीज बैठ जाइए, प्लीज बैठिए, प्लीज बैठिए। आपकी कोई बात रिकॉर्ड पे नहीं जा रही, आप अनऑथराइज्ड वे में बोल रहे हैं। प्लीज फॉलो द रूल्स, प्लीज, नो, यू हैव टू फॉलो द रूल्स। प्लीज बैठिए, अब प्लीज बैठिए। हर क्षण हर बात में जवाब मांगते हैं आप बीच में डिस्टर्ब मत क्या करिए, अदरवाइज आई विल फोर्स टू टेक योर नेम। बीच में डिस्टर्ब न करें
सर। रूल के हिसाब से जवाब देना ही पड़ेगा, मैं भी मानती हूं, मगर जो खड़े होकर के आपके अनुमति से बात करते हैं उनको देना ही पड़ता है, रनिंग कमेंट्री को नहीं। ये स्पष्ट रहे सर। हाँ। सर, टोटल यूटिलाइजेशन, तीसरे एग्जाम्पल, मैंने पहले एग्जाम्पल दिया हेल्थ और एजुकेशन सेस का, दूसरी कॉम्पनसेशन सेस का, तीसरी दे रही हूं जो बहुत ही मशहूर है, पॉपुलर है, सबको उसके ऊपर ध्यान रहता है, सेंट्रल रोड एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेस। रोड एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेस, इसका पहले फॉर्मर नेम वाज सेंट्रल रोड सेस। इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू बी 11.32 lakh crores as against the collection of 11.37 lakh crores. मतलब from 2010-11 to 22-23, from when the cess has been imposed, 2010-11 to 22-23 आने वाले साल को भी इंक्लूड करते हुए 11.37 लाख करोड़ से कलेक्शन, और it is expected to utilize 11.32 lakh crores. इस सेस को कैसे उपयोग करते हैं सर? It is being utilized to create infrastructure such as road, railways, drinking water, health, telecom, etc. एक जगह पर उपयोग करते हैं क्या? नहीं, पूरे देश में उपयोग करते हैं, हर प्रांत में उपयोग करते हैं, हर रीजन में उपयोग करते हैं। आजकल हर राज्य में जहां डेवलपमेंट कम है, एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट में भी उपयोग करते हैं। इसीलिए ये सेंट्रल रोड एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेस का भी स्टेट्स के द्वारा ही हर पैसा उनके यहां पहुंचता है। सो सरचार्ज, सेस, इसका उपयोग भी, मैं सेस और सरचार्ज का भी बोल रही हूं, स्टेट के पास जाता है, स्टेट्स में उपयोग में आता है। स्पेसिफिकली जिस कारण कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, जिस नाम पर कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, उस नाम पर खर्च भी होता है सेस और सरचार्ज का। आई होप अमर पटनायक जी is able to get a complete answer on this issue which he raised. Sir, member Vishambar Prasad Nishad ji, I'm not sure if he's here, but I'll still mention.
Yes, he is here. Here. Vishwambar ji हैं, please.
Oh, okay. Sir, उनका एक concern था सर कि GST, oh yes, I couldn't see the lal topi. GST on bicycles, sir, is higher at 18%. वो उनका वरी था कि बाइसाइकिल जैसे आम जनता यूज करने वाले एक चीज के ऊपर 18%. As against, sounds sensational, but he said it, as against GST rate which is very low for diamonds. कहने में अच्छा सेंसेशनल लगता है, बिल्कुल मैं मानती हूँ सेंसेशन लगता है, मगर सेंसेशन ही है। Bicycle attract a concessional GST rate at 12% and not 18% as mentioned by the member. 18% नहीं है, 12% है। मगर डायमंड्स के रेट सर जीएसटी काउंसिल ने 0.25% लगाया, बिकॉज majority of the diamonds which are imported into India are worked on, value added and cut and polished in India, which is a big job provider. शक्ति सिंह जी को मालूम है पूरे गुजरात, सूरत और बहुत सारे इलाके में इतने छोटे छोटे यूनिट्स में ये कारोबार चलता है, लाखों से संख्या में लोग काम रोजगार मिलता है उधर। और पूरे ये डायमंड्स कट एंड पॉलिश होने के बाद एक्सपोर्ट में चले जाता है, और एक्सपोर्ट में टैक्स कोई एक्सपोर्ट करते नहीं है हम। Even if you lay a tax on something, when you send it as an export, that is drawn back. The duty is drawn back. So there is no tax burden shifted to the buyer somewhere outside. So no export carries any tax. So this export, particularly because it's providing huge jobs, employment, the higher GST, which was indicated by Nishad ji, would only mean that you will crack down on the units, make them unviable, and जो jobs मिल रहा है लोग को लाखों की संख्या में, वो सब चले जाएगा। So उसके पीछे एक लॉजिक है। Sir, I can't see Sukhendu Shekhar Roy ji, but Nadimul Haq ji is here, so I'm sure he'll take that response to him. He was worried about, and I'm equally with him on this, it's a very sensitive matter on which we have, I remember from 2019 budget making one or the other provision so that this scourge is removed from our society. Allocation for manual scavenging has been reduced to mere 5 crores is what he felt. That's not right, sir. Allocation for self-employment and rehabilitation using machines and robots for those who want to be there, no compulsion on anybody, has been raised, and it is at 70 crores and that is in the budget of 22-23 as against 43.31 crores in the last year's budget. So actually more needs to be supported to them as and when there is any demand. That is part of our stand-up program also at the district levels. Also on the midday meal and ICDS, it was felt that the expenditure is very low. That's also not true. Expenditure on midday meal is estimated to be somewhere at 9,418 crore as against 10,234 crores of the earlier. This is 92% of the RE itself, not the BE. So we have not reduced on that as well. Then less than 1% of GDP, he says, on education. Adequate allocation has been made, and for the first time, and I remember the education minister recognizing the fact, Dharmendra Pradhanji, that 22-23 education budget has actually crossed 1 lakh. It is 1.04 lakh crores for education, 18% increase from the last time, sir. Similarly, for women and child, so Member Shukendu Shekhar Roy can be convinced about what has been given for social sector and particularly for education. So, Member Vijay Sai Reddy Garu had spoken about GST on insurance products. I just want to say very clearly that at present, goods and services tax on health insurance service is levied at a standard rate which is 18%. But I want to underline the fact for the notice of all members that specific health insurance schemes catering to the needs of economically weaker sections, health insurance for economically weaker sections of the society and for the differently abled people, Divyang log ke liye, those schemes, I will read it out: Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, Universal Health Insurance Scheme, Jana Arogya Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, Niramaya Health Insurance Scheme are all fully exempt from GST. So, economically weaker section के लिए जो schemes है insurance scheme और differently able people के लिए जो insurance schemes है उसमें GST लगता नहीं है, बिल्कुल लगता नहीं है. So, I just want to make sure this message is clear before us. So, quite a few people have raised questions that middle class has not received anything, will you not do anything for that, and so on. But several steps which are aimed at middle class, making ease of living for middle class, have been done over two budgets, 2020, 21 budget and also the 23 budgets actually. I wouldn't want to go through the details. More than 10 different measures were taken during the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. The interest on interest was refunded. Extensions have been given. Also moratorium was brought in. At the same time, statutory PF contributions have all, both employers and employees, were taken up by Government of India. TDS rates for all salary payment to residents and tax collected at source reduced by 25% for specific rates. And also the Swamin Fund was created so that completion of long outstanding middle class and affordable income household projects are cleared. That itself took specifically 24,000 crores, slightly over 24,000. Till now, 4,000 housing units annually were being completed. Now 10,000 housing units are being completed every year. For the past 1 year it has been so, and it will continue to be so. So we have aimed at completing 10,000 housing units for the next 3 to 4 years. All these are aimed at the middle class, sir. And also differential between the circle rate and agreement value rates in real estate income tax under 43, section 43 CA of the IT Act is increased from 10 to 20%, which is in favor of the middle class. This is for primary sale of residential units up to 2 crores, and consequential relief has also been provided up to 20%, and all this is being allowed for buyers of these units. Budget 21 also had a lot of provisions. I'm not getting into the detail, but I'm quite happy to share it with those members who particularly want to know about middle class, what we have done. There are quite a few things. I wouldn't want to take the time of the House on this. So Manoj Jhaji had raised a little concern saying global indices, where is India? Our position is bad. And he quoted two of them, Global Hunger Index and another inequality report. I just want to draw his attention that it's all right to quote those two. Seems like cherry picking for me, but there are others which I want to also equally highlight. And even on those two, at least on the global inequality report, the entire methodology is questionable. Because when he talks about the report talks about asset liability data being used when it is the question of the wealth of the rich, whereas when you're talking of the poor and you want to compare their level of well-being, just the liability is being taken and bank account and other things are just being looked at only for cursory sake. So the matrix is not the same. So to take a flawed inequality report and to talk about India's position based on that is not acceptable. Whereas ease of doing World Bank report, we were in 142, now we are on 63. Access to electricity, we were on 99, today we are on 26. Global competitiveness report, World Economic Forum, we were on 71, now we are on 43. Global Innovation Index, we were on 76, now we are on 46. And all this I'm talking about 2014. Logistic Performance Index, we were on 54, today we are on 44. So I would humbly submit to our member, Manoj Jhaji, that please, yes, we have to benchmark ourselves with global standards, but take everything on board, not just one which is suitable for our narrative. Social sector budget is another issue on which Manoj Jhaji has spoken. I think this budget, particularly post the pandemic, we have taken quite a few measures so that education, particularly for children who have lost it for last 2 years because they couldn't access, have all been given one class, one TV through PM E-Vidya, and also support, financial support which is being provided for farmers belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes has been enhanced. Har Ghar Nal Se Jal, 8.7 crores, 8.7 crores is the current coverage. Of this, 5.5 crore households were provided tap water in the last 2 years itself. I mentioned this in the budget. 60,000 crore allocation has been made, and that is with an aim of covering 3.8 crore households in this year 22-23. So like this, there are several, even PM Awas Yojana. 80 lakh houses will be completed for the identified eligible beneficiaries, for which 48,000 crores is already allocated. So I just want to highlight that the social sector has not been forgotten. So there has been a lot of interest on virtual digital assets. Several members spoke about it. I just want to put on the record some of the observations which will help clarify very many members who raised the questions on it. Virtual digital assets, sir, has been broadly defined to include any information or code or number or even a token providing a digital representation of value which can be generated through cryptographic means or otherwise. It's broad definition. Since virtual digital assets do not only include crypto, but also other assets such as non-fungible tokens, about which I do recall former finance minister of Bihar very often speaks about NFTs, non-fungible tokens. and they can be generated in very many different ways. The definition has been kept wide and not limited to those generated through cryptographic means alone. That is, it is not limited to crypto assets alone. To clear any confusion on the matter, the central government can also notify which virtual digital asset would not be taxed as virtual digital asset. Also, it can exclude any asset which is not required to be there. So it's very clearly taking it in a very calibrated fashion. So to track the VDA transactions, TDS of 1% has been introduced, and further through the finance bill, power is sought to be delegated to CBDT to issue guidelines from time to time so that for removal of any difficulty in implementing the TDS provisions. So tax exemption limit, again a matter about middle class not being given. I think this issue has been addressed several times for the benefit of member Vijayasai Reddy who asked that question. It's very well laid out that those individuals have income of 5 lakh or less pay no income tax at all due to the rebate which is available. Even those who have income higher than the 5 lakh take a benefit of tax saving schemes and reduce their income to less than 5 lakh and pay no tax. So thus, this policy benefits a large number of middle class taxpayers. Further, I also want to say that the individuals who do not want to take benefit of tax saving schemes, exemptions of any sort, have an option which we've given in 2020 for a new concessional parallel scheme which has reduced tax rate than the old regime in which exemptions are provided. So for reduced tax rates, one can always move to this area. So also this question was raised about section 147, wherein reason to believe is the expression on which there was a lot of question raised. Reason to believe has been removed, and by this, what have you achieved? Is a question which some members raised. I just want to clarify on that. Reason to believe has been removed as it was leading to a lot of litigations. It has been a conscious effort, sir, to reduce litigation. However, this omission does not mean that there are no checks or on the assessing officer, power to reopen the assessments and so on. So, omitting this phrase last year, we enacted a new procedure which provides an opportunity to taxpayer to explain how he has correctly filed his tax return. So now this is more stringent and this is far more clearer, so the possibility of litigation is far lesser now. So again, I seek your indulgence. I need to go into a bit of a detail. Former Finance Minister Sri P. Chidambaram had raised a lot of questions. I'd like to respond to them one by one. Sir, he had raised this question on the capital expenditure which was mentioned in the budget. Capital expenditure, as per the BE of 21-22 of this year, is 5.54 lakh crores, and as per the RE of 21-22, the year ending now, is 6.03 lakh crores. The budget transparently actually discloses that the RE 21-22 estimates include that capital infusion which is made into Air India Asset Holding Company and loans to Air India for settlement of the past guaranteed and sundry liabilities not backed by assets, those liabilities which are not backed by assets amounting to 51,917 crores. This was mentioned in the budget, and we've been absolutely upfront and transparent in saying asterisks, footnotes, this 51,917 goes to Air India Asset Holding Company, which the former finance minister recognizes that I put it in the footnote, but questions as to how that become a capital expenditure, how that can be treated as capital expenditure. I'll address that, sir. But before that, as regards, therefore, the capital expenditure target which was set in the 21-22, the current year's budget estimate, sir, you have not reached the capital expenditure target. You've put this into that account, but you have not reached the target. I would like to say, sir, if I exclude this 51,917 crore, I've actually reached 5.51 lakh crores of my BE capital expenditure. I have actually reached, of the 5.54 lakh crores, I've reached 5.51 lakh crores target that is fixed, just marginally short. But then, the treatment of this 51,917 being questioned by the former finance minister is what I want to answer now. Sir, accounting principle treats loans to any CPSE or loans to states are all treated as capital expenditure. This is an accounting principle. I have not brought into it. I'm sure he would know it. It just slipped his mind. So, loans and equities to CPSEs as capital expenditure is not uncommon. For instance, and this is important, for instance, in 2011-12, Government of India made equity infusion into this very same Air India. 2011-12, Government of India made equity infusion into Air India of 1,200 crores. In the RE of 2012-13, and again in BE of 13 and 14 as well. And in BE of 2013-14, again to the Air India, equity support of 6,000 crores and 5,000 crores respectively were given. वो capital expenditure था sir, तब भी वो capital expenditure है, अब भी वो capital expenditure है. To raise a question saying, how did you include this in the capital expenditure? By including it, you thought you actually not reached it, you have not met the target, but because you have not met the target, you wanted to add this, which is not to be included, was his argument. But I'm sorry, when you gave it in 11 and 12 to this very same Air India, it was capital expenditure, and I say that. And I'm saying that even now what I've given at 51,917 crore is capital expenditure. At least I've said it openly and put it in the footnote also saying I've done this. So, often these supports were provided to CPSEs, central government's public service sector undertakings, to clear their liabilities. Honorable members may be informed, but I would like to take this opportunity to say, yes, capital expenditure, the treatment as per the accounting principle is that this is capital expenditure. But it also accepts that some of these amounts, not entirely everything, but some of these amounts could be used for clearing the liabilities, including employee cost and VRS and so on, then and now. Then it was utilized for that purpose somewhat, and now it may be utilized somewhat for that purpose. So even medical benefits are also used. But when it is given to a CPSE or when it is given to a state government as loan, it is under the category of capital expenditure. So I want to make that very, very clear, sir. So the same principle holds for the second issue which Honorable former Finance Minister raised, saying you're giving 1 lakh crore to the states for them to spend on capital expenditure. They'll have to be running from pillar to post to raise this loan. I'm not exactly using the words, but he said somewhat something like this. No. Center is giving it to the states, interest-free, 50 years, saying you please use it for capital expenditure. So, through that we expect that assets will be created. So, to be clear, accountancy principle, economic principle and real terms. This is capital expenditure. Former Finance Minister, I would like to say it, he is not here, but I'm sure message will reach him. So, 1 lakh crore provided to the states is being provided for states to spend on creating assets. It is interest-free.
Please sit down. Please,
It is
Anilji, please.
interest-free.
Please, you continue. Please, you continue, please. You continue.
All right. If
No,
you
no, please,
allow,
you continue. Please, Anilji. Please, Anilji. I'm not allowing you. I'm not allowing you, please. Please sit down. Please sit. Please sit. Please sit. You continue.
Thank you.
Sir, nothing will go on record. Only
I'll yield.
ministers will. No, please, you continue. No, please, you continue. Please, Manya Mantri ji. Manya Mantri ji. Manya Mantri ji. Please, you sit down. No, I will not allow. No. Manya Mantri ji. You continue, please.
Sir,
No.
this money given to the states, sir,
After, no, please. Please sit down. You continue, please. You continue, please. मंत्री जी की स्पीच केवल रिकॉर्ड में जाएगी, नथिंग विल गो ऑन रिकॉर्ड.
That we know, sir, that
this money which is being
I
given
will
to
allow.
the states,
No, I will try to. Please, you are a senior member. Please sit down. Please sit down. I am not allowing you. Please.
given to the states for
No,
50
please
years,
sit down. Please sit down.
and
Please.
this
No, I will not allow right now.
A geographical
After that, I will. Let her complete. No, please.
I will call your name.
No, please. Please sit down. Please sit down. Please.
I'm sitting down because you are standing.
Let Mantri ji complete her speech. Then I can allow. Please, you continue.
Why are you trying to become pure Mantri?
You continue.
Sir, the states, when they get this money for 50 years interest-free, they can spend it for their capital expenditure and create assets, and this is being given so that capital asset creation, capital expenditure, which is so required for the environment which is so, prevailing now, where recovery is important. We have given this so that every state gets an opportunity to participate in this infrastructure building, through which states can add to the momentum of recovery. So then, former Finance Minister also moved to talk about GDP growth rate and also the inflation. He raised an issue which he did raise, if I remember correct, even when he spoke after the budget presentations, when the discussion on the budget was happening this year. He had raised this issue then, and I have answered it then, but he's raised it again, and I wish to answer it again. Budget documents shown nominal growth rate at 11.1%, he recalled. And the CA in his interview had said something that the real growth rate would be 8% for 22-23. The chief economic advisor, yes, is part of the ministry, but his report and his assessments are normally his own. The ministry keeps that report at an arm's distance, is something which all of us know, and I'm sure the party from where he comes, and he's been finance minister, he would appreciate that point. He had raised this question, therefore, that does this mean the inflation for the next financial year is going to be only 3.1%? Now, I want to address this, sir. The government is conscious of the need to balance the imperatives of growth and also make sure India's recovery post the COVID is sustained and sustainable. And the budget reflects this commitment and outlays the way forward. But the balance that I'm talking about is, whilst giving the emphasis for growth, we are also conscious of the inflation. Now, Economic Survey reflects an independent assessment, as I said, of the state of the economy and also the projections for the economy. The budget of 22-23, which I presented, and with today, I suppose somewhere we'll lead the closure, we'll come to the closure of discussion on it. The budget of 22-23 is prepared based on the advanced estimates which are given in 21-22 and which gets published this time, which got published on 7th January 2022, which is the NSO publication. And we believe that we did not, and I'm very confident that we did not factor in the Omicron, which came immediately after the budget was presented, which began late January 22. Therefore, the GDP growth estimates for the next year are conservative. And I just want to highlight, Ukraine is a new factor, no doubt. Honorable Finance Minister, former Finance Minister raised that issue also. The hike, unprecedented hike in the fuel prices is also a new challenge. However, I just want to submit before the honorable members that we take a whole year's picture when we make the budget, or whole year's picture is before us when we talk of the economy, rather than reviewing it and reassessing it on a weekly basis or even on a monthly basis. So I want to highlight that fact and also say, in so far as the inflation issue is concerned, the WPI indices is the deflator. In the deflator has been very high in the current year compared to the CPI indices. CPI as in Consumer Price Index indices. We are hopeful that the WPI indices will shrink going forward, and the deflator over the real economic growth will be lower in the next financial year. But I would want to humbly recall, and I'm not sure if Member Narendra Jadhav is here, post the submission of the budget, and at that time when the House discussed the budget, I remember the intervention Sri Narendra Jadhav ji, honorable member, made about what exactly is this deflator. It's not the CPI, it's not the WPI. Then what exactly is it? It does have CPI, it does have WPI. So to reduce this whole debate to saying, are you then telling me that your inflation calculation is only at 3.1? It was a bit disappointing, coming as it did from the former finance minister. But for the record's sake, I want to quote the words of Honorable Member Narendra Jadhav talking about the deflator, the concept of deflator. And I quote here, sir. He had said at that time, I think it was on 9th February 22, Narendra Jadhav ji, I quote him, the difference between the nominal GDP growth rate and the real GDP growth rate is not the CPI inflation, nor is it the WPI inflation. The difference between the two is actually the widest measure of inflation, called the GDP deflator. And the inflation based on the GDP deflator, which is embedded in this budget of 3.1%, is perfectly feasible. Why? I'm quoting. Why? Because I have worked out for the last 5 years, Narendra Jadhav ji says, I have worked out for the last 5 years, 5 years ending pre-COVID year of 2019-20, and it turns out that the average inflation Sorry about that.
Okay. वो देखवा लीजिए.
Thank you.
Yes.
I continue, sir.
Yes.
Why? Because I have worked out for the last 5 years, 5 years ending the pre-COVID year of 1920, and it turns out that the average inflation rate based on the GDP inflator in our country is 3.15%, which is not very different from 3.1% incorporated in the present budget, unquote. So, an economist, Narendra Jadhav, member of this House, speaking on the current budget on 9th February 2022, has said this, sir, about the deflator. It might just be good for us to draw it for answering the Honorable former Finance Minister who raised that issue. Sir, he also raised, former Finance Minister also raised this question about the proportion of direct taxes and the indirect taxes as a percentage of the GDP, and he felt that because the indirect taxes proportion is higher than the direct taxes, that it is very regressive. I just want to put the facts here, sir. Yes, if indirect taxes are more than direct taxes in terms of their contribution to the GDP, it is regressive, and nobody works, at least I'm not, or none of us here, or my predecessor, Sri Arun Jaitley, none of us worked consciously to make the indirect taxes contribute more to the GDP than the direct taxes. But the facts will have to be laid before, sir. The main reason for increase in share of indirect tax, which was the case now, he conceded, I must say, former Finance Minister conceded now that it is coming to probably equal 5.1%, but ideally direct taxes should be more than the indirect taxes. I concede that. But I want to lay the facts before. The main reason for increase in share of indirect taxes, sir, is GST compensation, cess, which is a temporary arrangement. For instance, in 21-22, RE of 21-22 includes 1.05 lakh crores on account of GST compensation cess. If we exclude this amount, from indirect taxes, then the share of indirect taxes as a percentage of GDP is less than 5%. It will be at 4.97% compared to the 5.4% of the direct taxes. So direct taxes are higher. But of course, because of the compensation, which is a necessary step forward, we'll have to do it. Similarly, in BE 22-23, share of indirect taxes, sir, excluding the GST compensation, which is at 1.20 lakh crores, is estimated to be at 4.7% of GDP, which is lesser as compared to 5.5% of the direct taxes, which is for the forthcoming year from 1st April. So that point is well taken, sir. The one other point, which will be the last point on the...
Slides को देखो. Slide.
Quite a big one.
Slide. दिखा रहे.
No, because it's gone inside, sir. That gadget should be kept outside rather than keep... Sir, there was a very, which I felt a bit odd, issue that former Finance Minister raised, saying faith in the private sector investors is being lost. Meaning he questioned, is it that the government has lost faith in the private investors? I just want to address that because it's a very important issue and our position can be explained. The pandemic created huge uncertainties, sir, that seriously impacted private sector investments. The government stepped in to fill the gap up, and create environment necessary to revive and sustain investments from the private sector. And we believe that the government and the private sector are partners in usheringdevelopment in this economy. There is no us versus them when it comes to government versus private sector. To set up private sector investments, the government has launched PLI in 14 sectors which is expected to add additional productive capacity of over 30 lakh crores over the next 5 years. That is a way in which private sector is also being nudged to come into, spending their money in investments. And PM Gati Shakti, sir, is also one of the transformative approach, wherein about 7 different, if I may envision that as 7 different horses leading PM Gati Shakti of growth. It will pull forward the economy, leading to huge jobs and entrepreneurial skills of people, and that will itself be a great contribution from the private sector. And I had said in the budget speech that it will only help in crowding in private sector investments. Sir, I wouldn't take more time, but there are issues which former finance minister raised, and I need to address it, particularly on the finance bill. He had commented saying, in this finance bill, there are 125 clauses, out of which 84 pertains to Income Tax Act, and then you have moved 39 government amendments with I would think, a tinge of criticism, with an element of sarcasm. He said 125 clauses, of which 84 pertain to income tax, but you're bringing in 39 amendments over it. Can anyone understand? He couldn't understand, he said, but, well, I'd like to explain it now, and hopefully you'll be able to understand.